You hear about it everywhere, right? Artificial intelligence. But, forget the sci-fi stuff, the killer robots from the movies. The real AI revolution is something way more practical, and honestly, a lot more profound. It's already here, and it is quietly reshaping our world in ways we're only just starting to wrap our heads around.
Wow. Just let that sink in for a second. More than electricity. That is a massive, massive claim. And it comes from Kai-Fu Lee, who's one of the top minds in this entire field. And that right there, that's the scale of the change we're going to explore today. A truly fundamental shift in how everything works.
Okay, so let's dive right in. To really get what's happening, we first need to be on the same page about what AI even means today. Because it's not about machines that think like us, it's something else entirely.
See, the old school way of doing AI was, well, it was clunky. You'd have to write out all these rigid rules, like to identify a person, measure the distance between their eyes. But the real game changer here is something called deep learning. Instead of giving the computer rules, you just feed it thousands of pictures of two different people and basically say, go, you figure out the difference. It's not about making a computer that thinks like a human, it's about creating a pattern recognition machine on a scale we've just never seen before.
So this whole thing didn't just pop up overnight. It's really more like a perfect storm, right? 3 key ingredients had to come together at just the right time. We finally got computer chips that are fast enough to handle all this. We have this almost infinite library of data from the internet for them to learn from. And of course, we have the deep learning method to tie it all together.
Now, when you have a technology this powerful, it's not going to stay in the lab for long. It has kicked off a brand new kind of global competition, a tech race for the future, really, between the world's 2 biggest economies.
So on one side, you've got the US, Silicon Valley, the classic hub for innovation, just driven by brilliant researchers and engineers who are always pushing the envelope. And then on the other side, you have China's whole approach, focused on super fast, massive scale implementation, all backed by strong government support and an absolutely unbelievable amount of data.
And this right here, this is China's single biggest advantage. Because in the world of deep learning, data isn't just important, it's the fuel. It's literally everything. And with 4 times the population of the US, almost all of whom are online, using digital payments for pretty much everything, China is generating a tsunami of data that just makes their AI systems smarter and smarter, faster than anyone else.
Okay, so all this talk about data and superpower races, it's a little abstract, right? So what can this stuff actually do? Let's get concrete and look at a few real-world examples that really show you its power.
Okay, get this. In over 1,000 classrooms in China, AI isn't just, taking attendance. It is actively watching students' faces, tracking tiny little muscle movements to figure out how they're feeling. It's literally telling the teacher in real time who's locked in, who's totally lost, and who's excited. Now the goal is personalized help, which sounds great, but it also raises some pretty big questions, doesn't it?
And then there's AI that can write. So they gave Google's chatbot, Bard, this famous 6-word story. For sale, baby shoes, never worn. They asked it to finish the story, and the result was just staggering. It created this incredibly human story about heartbreak and eventual hope, and it does all this just by predicting the most likely next word. It's kind of like how jelly probably follows peanut butter, but it's doing that on a scale that has basically read the entire internet.
And then you've got this. Robots at Google's AI lab DeepMind learning to play soccer all by themselves. At first, it was just total chaos. They were just this jumble of bots chasing a ball like a bunch of 6-year-olds. But after playing thousands and thousands of games against each other, they started developing strategies. They learned how to pass, how to block, how to work together. And this is way more than just a game. This is the kind of research that could lead to robots working in really dangerous places, like disaster recovery zones.
Now, what's so fascinating and maybe a little unsettling about all of this is that for every one of those incredible, mind-blowing applications, there's a shadow. There's a corresponding risk or a challenge that we absolutely have to face.
And that really brings us to the core of the whole debate, right? Is this thing the ultimate tool that's going to elevate all of humanity, or does it pose some kind of existential threat to society as we know it?
I mean, the promise is it's breathtaking. DeepMind's AI solved one of the grand challenges of biology by mapping the structure of 200 million proteins, a task that would have taken literally 1 billion years of human work, and that has already led to things like new malaria vaccines and enzymes that can eat plastic. We're talking about giving every professional a superpowered assistant and every student a personal tutor.
But And this is a huge but. The peril is just as stark. We are facing the very real possibility of mass job displacement. And we're not just talking about factory jobs anymore. We're talking about writers, accountants, even software engineers. These AI systems also have this weird tendency to hallucinate, which means they just confidently make stuff up. And that could fuel these explosive campaigns of misinformation. And as we've seen with some chatbots developing these disturbing alter egos, their behavior can be deeply, deeply unpredictable.
Let's put a number on that threat of job displacement, just to make it real. Kai-Fu Lee estimates that in the next 15 to 25 years, AI could make 40% of the world's jobs, well, displaceable. That is a massive societal shift coming at a speed we have never had to deal with before. And that whole hallucination problem, researcher Gary Marcus has the perfect term for it. He calls it authoritative BS. The AI delivers false information with such complete confidence, and it blends it so smoothly with the truth that unless you are an absolute expert on the topic, you can't tell the difference.
So, this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? With stakes this high, with this much promise and this much peril, how do we steer this ship? How do we make sure this incredible technology actually works for humanity and not against it?
Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is that in a lot of cases, we don't fully understand how these things work. It's called the black box problem. We know the data that goes in and we see the answer that comes out, but the process in the middle can be a complete mystery. For example, a Google AI was prompted in the language of Bangladesh, and it just spontaneously taught itself how to translate it. It's a skill it was never, ever trained for. These weird, unexpected abilities are called emergent properties, and they're a mystery even to the people who build these systems.
And you know who's calling for caution the loudest? It's kind of surprising. It's the people building the tech. The CEOs of Google and Microsoft are out there saying that society has to adapt, that we need new laws, new regulations, maybe even international treaties. The big goal here is to solve what's known as the alignment problem, the massive challenge of making sure these incredibly powerful systems are built from the ground up to serve human values, not to work against them.
You know, in the end, this technology, it's really just a mirror. It has the potential to give us superpowers, to cure diseases, to unlock creativity, to solve huge problems. But by doing that, it forces us to ask some of the deepest questions about ourselves. It's not just about what the machines can do. It's about what we want them to do. It's about who we as a society are going to choose to become in this new age.